So we got to talk about the best exercise for losing weight. I know so many of you that are building fasting lifestyles. You're trying to figure out how to lose weight. And I've done a lot of videos on all the different ways you can pair fasting with different diet styles to lose weight. So go watch those if you're deep on a weight loss reduction journey. There really is a lot of science behind weight loss, and I think that's important for us all to acknowledge. I know that for me, back in the 1970s and 80s when I was growing up, the old theory was if you wanted to lose weight, you just diet, you'd reduce calories down, and you worked out harder. And a lot of people are still using that theory, and that is the hardest way to drop weight, and many times actually will have you boomerang back. So on this video, I want to highlight one study in particular that really shows the effectiveness of one style of exercise that not only will you be able to succeed at, because everybody can do this, but also that will give you a greater burn when it comes to fat loss and will improve your cardiovascular system the best. And it's time efficient. Here we go. The study I'm highlighting was actually in BMJ, British Medical Journal, which is a phenomenal journal. And the title of the study is The Effectiveness of High-Intensity Interval Training for Weight Loss in Adults with Obesity. Now, high-intensity training, if you have not heard about this, let me give you sort of the basic premise of it. What it is where you are pushing yourself to max for about 30 seconds, and then you're taking a rest for 90 seconds, and then you're going back and pushing yourself to a max for 30 seconds. So this was originally brought to our attention decades ago by a Japanese scientist named Tabata. You might have heard of Tabata training. That was like all the rage in all the gyms for a long time. And what he did is he took two groups. This was the old study. This is a new one. So don't worry, I'm getting to the new study. But in the old study, what Tabata figured out was that you could take two groups of people. One, you could put them on a treadmill running or walking at the same rate for an hour. And the other one, he had do 30 seconds of full out hard running on the treadmill, followed by 90 seconds of walking, then back to 30 seconds, and then 90 seconds. And he had them do that for 20 minutes. Now, what he found in that study was that the people who were on the treadmill for an hour, yes, they burned calories, but the minute they got off that treadmill, they no longer had any kind of metabolic uptick. There was nothing that kept their metabolism at that really high burn rate. Whereas the people, when he put them on the treadmill and he made them go all out where they could barely, move anymore, and this showed up in this study too, and then he had them do that in short bursts, that not only did their metabolic rate go up during the 20-minute exercise, but it stayed high for 24 hours. Now, this is critical because I don't know about you, but I want an exercise that's going to be short bursts, 20 minutes, very doable. And yeah, I'd like it to keep my metabolic rate going for the rest of the day. Wouldn't you? So this is why HIIT training, this style of training, has become so popular because it is the most time-efficient way to use exercise to drop weight. Now, what's interesting about this new study in BMJ, so it's not like completely new, it's 2021, but what they did is that they looked at 44 obese subjects. Now, it was a variation of men and women, so I just want to point out that we should have had it for my women, like it should have been all on women so that we could really see what this did, take the information for women out of this. But because we don't study women in a silo, we kind of mix women in with men, we're sort of getting an average of the findings for both men and women. They compared one that was 60% of maximum oxygen peak, or what they call VO2 peak. And so that wouldn't be like full on out of breath. That would be like 60% of your ultimate limit that you can take cardiovascularly. That was one type of working out. They called it MICT. And then the other group did HIIT training, where you are going 100% of VO2 max. So you got to be out of breath. If you're going to play by these rules, when you work out, you got to be out of breath. Deal? Okay, now check this out. So with this HIIT style HIIT training, they shortened it even more. They changed the parameters a little more compared to the old Tabata's information. They did 3 to 7 repetitions of a 3-minute all out. So instead of a 30-second sprint, they did 3 minutes all out. So I guess that would still be around a 20-minute workout if you did 7 repetitions of 3 minutes all out at 100%. And then they did a minute and a half rest in between each repetition. So if you want to mimic this, it's a little different version from Tabata's. So I just want to point that out. Now, here's what they found, is that they did it every day for 12 weeks. And at the end of a 12-week period, not only did the HIIT training group lose more weight, but their cardiovascular system was greatly improved. So they started to see some real reduction in poor cardiovascular health, turn around from the HIIT training that they didn't see from people who were just doing the moderate training at about 60% of their VO2 max. So that was really cool. The second thing that they saw was that because it was such a short type of exercise, that people were able to stick with it. So there was no boredom. The dropout rate was significantly lower than the people who had to go longer with their exercise, but maybe were more comfortable in the exercise experience. So again, if we relate this to our own selves, would you rather go for an hour walk and because it feels a little bit easier, or would you take 20 minutes of some struggle and so that you can get a better result? Now, I can tell you as somebody who's very packed, her calendar is very packed, I'll take 20 minutes of struggle over an hour of comfort to get a better fitness result. That's just hands down. That's how I feel. So I think when we get to this place where we're like, I can't exercise because I don't have time, this blows this completely away. Now, what I love about this study, and I want to really highlight, because sometimes these studies can be very confusing and sometimes they have just gems of statements and I'm like, wow, we got to know this. And here's one of the gems of a statement that they said, is that they feel like HIIT training should be considered for improving not just weight loss, but it should be considered for improving cardiovascular markers, and that it actually should be one of our first go-tos for cardiovascular health. Now, let's unpack that for a hot moment, because I know you probably came to this video because you want to lose weight. So hopefully you just got an understanding that the new science is saying 3 minutes on, minute and a half reduction, 3 minutes of all out, minute and a half of rest. That done 3 to 7 times is how you are going to burn more fat and how you are going to improve cardiovascular markers. I hope that everybody starts exercising like that, because that is the key for weight loss. But what about for treatment of cardiovascular markers? So those of you that have high blood pressure, those of you that have high cholesterol, those of you that are not sure if you want to take a statin, or if you're not sure, what you're doing for your cardiovascular health, there's another part of the cardiovascular story that you may have never heard of, which is this high intensity training for overall cardiovascular improvement along with weight loss. And one of the reasons I wanted to highlight that for you is because when I am here educating you all, I'm looking at it through a lifestyle lens. If we have gained weight, if we have high blood pressure, if we have high cholesterol, if we have challenges with our cardiovascular system, I always think about lifestyle first. And of course, the fasting lifestyle cleans up so much. And just like fasting, when I brought it to you, it's like all of a sudden people were like, oh wow, I can eat my food in an 8 to 10 hour period, leaving longer windows for rest, and my body starts to actually burn fat more efficiently. It's the same principle I'm talking about now, but it's over in the exercise world. We can exercise more efficiently and get a better result. So we're back at the metabolic switch. You go into that fasted state, you burn fat. You come into the food state and you start to build hormones, and you start to improve everything from neurotransmitters in your brain to your hair to your skin to muscle. We do that, right? In the metabolic state or in the sugar burner state. Then we go over to the fat burning state, we start fasting a little longer, we start really getting rid of the excess. We can do the same with exercise. Think of HIIT training as being over here in the fat burning place. So if you like to walk, or you like to go on a hike with friends, or you like your yoga class, keep doing that. But when you want to dip into periods of more fat burning, how about we do this 3 minutes on, minute and a half off, 3 to 7 reps, and we do HIIT training over here. That's how I see this tool being used. Weight loss is not complicated when you start to look at it through the lens of the metabolic switch. And if you want to be a fat burner when it comes to exercise, HIIT training is your go-to. So put in the comments if that is you, if you've noticed HIIT training has helped you lose weight. If you're struggling to understand what HIIT training even is, come join me in my Reset Academy. Every Saturday morning, we're doing different versions of HIIT training. All ages are in there. Let me tell you, it's a really fun community, and there's a lot, everything from 80-year-olds to 25-year-olds. We're all working out together all over the world. So if you want to experience this, come join us over there. But don't give up on yourself. Don't fall prey to those old dieting strategies, those old exercise strategies. They're no longer pertinent anymore. They're no longer relevant. And if you didn't get the message, this is the message. Send this to somebody who's exercising in a way that's just exhausting them, not turning them into a great metabolic switcher, and not tapping into the fat burning resources that your body's already given you. So there you go, HIIT training. It's the jam for weight loss. Okay, on this video, I want to talk about my new favorite exercise that I cannot believe that I love so much, and it's walking. So if you're like me, a recovering athlete that has pushed yourself so hard, and you know how to override the pain signals in your brain when you're working out, I really want you to take a step back and relook at walking as the greatest fitness tool there is, because it can accomplish so much from a brain place. It can help your joints, and it can balance your hormones. Let me explain why. So remember, right now in this world that we're living in, we are living in a cortisol saturated state. So every moment from the time we get up till when we go to check our phone, looking at our email, to the demands that we're given on a work day are bigger than ever. And so I don't know a human on the planet right now that isn't cortisol saturated. When your brain is in this constant state of cortisol, what's happening is that you're getting locked in your amygdala. This is your fight or flight brain. When stressors hit you over and over and over again, the brain starts to go, okay, where's the next stressor? Where's it going to be? And all of a sudden you're like trying to find that next stressor. And you might even find you're like overreacting to small little things because the brain is trying to keep you safe. So walking can reorganize that part of the brain, and I'll explain why here in a moment. The second thing, and this is really applicable to my women over 40, as you move through your perimenopause and menopausal years, your estrogen is going down. And as estrogen goes down, so does collagen. And as collagen goes down, it doesn't just make your face wrinkled, but it also makes your joints more vulnerable to that extreme working out. So we have to find new ways to work out that don't involve damaging the joints, and walking is one of them. Third thing is that when cortisol is high, remember the hormonal hierarchy. I spoke of this in Fast Like a Girl. When cortisol is really high, you become more insulin resistant. When you're more insulin resistant, now you can't balance those sex hormones. So cortisol becomes really important to manage so that you can manage your insulin resistance or insulin sensitivity, and you can manage your sex hormones. So think about it in this way. If you're one of those women taking HRT or BHRT and you feel like it's not working, or you're taking a thyroid medication, you feel like it's not working, if cortisol stays really, really high, you're going to find that it becomes you're not going to feel the effects of those medications. So something as simple as walking can help your hormone replacement therapy effectiveness. Yeah, it can. Because once you understand the hormonal hierarchy, you understand why this is such a cool tool. Okay, with that foundation in place here, let's talk about the first reason why I want you walking. And that is because it will calm the brain. So you have two parts of your brain that work in opposition of each other, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So the amygdala is fight or flight. I already spoke of that one. That's the one that's trying to keep you safe. When you are locked in your amygdala, you are not activating your prefrontal cortex. So your prefrontal cortex is your creative part of your brain. It's where you can see hope and possibility. So you're supposed to move in and out of these parts of your brain, but when you are locked because of the stress in here, you stop using the prefrontal cortex, and all of a sudden the prefrontal cortex actually can start to degenerate. So when we go for a walk, what we're doing to the brain is we're saying we're moving away from the stress. Remember, you are primal. So what you're telling your brain is, I get it, I'm stressed, so I'm going to move away from the stressor. And all of a sudden you start moving into the prefrontal cortex. Try it sometime. Like if you have a stressful event hit you, try like getting up from your desk and then just going for a walk. And 20 minutes later, tell me how you feel. I guarantee you'll feel better because you got your brain into that prefrontal cortex spot. So understand that that forward movement can do that. And this is why I call walking my forward movement exercise, because I had to kind of rethink about it. My extreme athlete brain had to reorganize walking and look at it in a bigger picture. So I call it forward movement. I just say, oh, I'm going to go on a forward movement workout right now, which is walking. So anyway, so that's how it calms the brain, and it can move you out of fight or flight. The second part I want to add is when you are walking, and this is where I think it does really do better than running, is that you scan the horizon, look out like from right to left. Again, that's a primal part of the brain that you are telling the brain, I'm looking for danger. I'm moving from danger and I'm looking for danger, and the brain will calm. So this is one of the things that I've noticed just on using the phone when we're scrolling up and down, especially before we go to bed. And that actual scrolling up and down locks us in our amygdala. Whereas eye movement, side to side, actually will start to calm the brain and move you into the prefrontal cortex. And all that can be accomplished through walking. So that's the first one, that's a biggie. Second one is that it's a lot easier on your joints. So my menopausal women out there, I really want you to hear this with love, is that when estrogen goes down, collagen's going down, and that constant pounding, that running, the HIIT training, the extreme exercise is going to wear those joints out. So at some point, we're going to have to shift the approach to exercise. So this is why I'm a fan of walking and adding that in as more recovery during your workouts. I think as women, we actually have to consider our sex hormones in the big picture of our workouts. This is why I got some really fun fitness projects and collaborations that, stay tuned, you'll learn about coming down the pipeline, where I'm really trying to help the fitness industry understand that women need to exercise differently. Menopausal and postmenopausal women need to exercise differently because of collagen. And walking will help you get fit, it will calm the brain, and it won't destroy your joints. So I love it for that. Third thing is walking will help you lower your cortisol levels. So let's go back to the hormonal hierarchy. So remember, when we're trying to balance estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, we need to be insulin sensitive. And when we are insulin sensitive, in order to get insulin sensitive, we need to bring cortisol down. So I've already talked about when you move forward and you scan the horizon, we're bringing down the stress levels. But if you add that into maybe going out in nature, going for a hike, now there's a really incredible evidence showing that when we're in nature, it brings cortisol down. The smell of nature, the sound of nature, the visual of nature, just being in the environment of nature brings cortisol down. I did an incredible podcast interview with Dr. Austin Perlmutter on this, on the Resetter podcast. You can go back and listen to it, where we dove into the science of nature and how therapeutic it is for bringing stress down. But if you go for a walk in nature, wow, like not only are you bringing cortisol down now, but you are reorganizing your brain. So if you're lucky enough to live near, a mountainous place or near a beach, go for a walk and really fully immerse yourself in that nature experience, and you'll bring cortisol down. So 3 incredible reasons why I think we need to bring walking back as a fitness exercise. I feel like in all the extreme we've done in the health world, we've sort of pushed away walking and dismissed it. And I want to bring it back and tell you it is your best health tool. And if you are under a lot of stress, if you have a big stressful moment hit you, go for a walk, get out, and it'll affect all 3 of these things. So I've even seen people who have moved from extreme Spartan racing, CrossFitting, not that I'm opposed to those things, but that extreme endurance racing that they're doing where their body is just worn out. And all of a sudden, maybe they cut that activity in half and add in walking as recovery, and they're able to get more out of those workouts. They're getting better results because they're using walking as this recovery piece. So you can really integrate it well into your lifestyle, and your body will perform at a higher level. Remember that rest, especially for a female body, if you're a woman, rest is a superpower you can lean into to get more out of your body, more out of your life. It's that push that destroys us on all levels. Okay, you know how when you're trying to get in and out of fat burner, sugar burner, and sometimes you struggle? It might be that you have a metabolic blocker that's at play here. Want to know what those blockers are? Click on the link above and I'll take you straight to a giveaway and you can have my list of metabolic blockers.
My hopes and dreams of where I think we can go using a tool like fasting to change the incredible crisis that so many women are finding themselves in right now, whether they're being gaslit in their doctor's office, whether they are struggling with their menopause symptoms, or maybe they can't lose 50 pounds, they don't know how to do that, or maybe they're struggling to get pregnant. I mean, there's so many reasons that women need this tool. We're gonna really dive into what is happening right now in the world for women, and then why fasting has become such an amazing tool, and then talk about some of the basic principles around fasting. So the first thing that I will share with you, and I was in the health trenches, is the way I call it, with my patients for over 25 years. And my slant with my clinic was always lifestyle. I just always felt like before you put somebody on a medication, before you put somebody on a supplement, before you gave them some fancy treatment, let's fix lifestyle first. And when we look at statistics like 40% of Americans have one, or 60% have one chronic disease, and 40% have 2 or more chronic diseases. That's not a lack of supplements. That's not a lack of medication. That's a lack of lifestyle education. So I really put a huge focus in my practice on lifestyle, and I would educate them on different lifestyle tools. So it'd be everything from, okay, we're going to talk about brain health. We're going to talk about immunity, because my goal was to educate. And by the way, if you have never really thought this through, doctor, the word doctor actually means to teach. Like that's so, but we've lost that in our healthcare system. We don't even think about that anymore. It literally means to teach. We all heal ourselves. Nobody's a healer but you. You're just healing yourself. 2 of the biggest hurdles to being healthy, and it's the hurdles I've heard from my patients over and over and over again. But if we are going to change the direction that health is going right now, we have to find a tool that is low cost or free and time efficient. And I don't know any other healing tool on the freaking planet that can accomplish that like fasting can. Now, exercise is free, not time efficient, but I am a big fan of exercise. Eating well, not free, but you got to eat. And unfortunately, now it's become an issue where good food, healthy food, is more expensive. I decided to write Fast Like a Girl because I had been watching the techniques around fasting that I was teaching my patients. I was watching it work so well for women when we cycled fasting in and out. Fast Like a Girl was born because my motivation to write that book was to get a free and time-efficient tool into every woman's hands. As I was writing the book, I started to dive into really what the current situation with women's health was. And it is very, very depressing, as many of you know. And one of the things that has been really lighting up my heart is that this was back in 2020 that all of this went down. And here we are 4 years later. And in that 4 years, we have gone from not even recognizing that women need a different health plan than men, that women are being put on medications that have never been studied on them, that women have more autoimmune conditions than men do, that women are struggling more with their health than men. In the last 4 years, that conversation has been bubbling to the surface. And I'm so happy we're now having the conversation, because 4 years ago, we didn't even have a language to even think that women should be doing health different. And I just want to point out some statistics of what happens when we don't pull women into a different health category, when we are blind to that. And this has to change. What I have realized is that it's up to us. And a chronic statement I keep saying over and over again is, it is not our fault where we have landed for healthcare right now, but it is our responsibility. So we are going to take our power back by learning something as simple as a fasting lifestyle. So we've got to come back to, it's our responsibility. We need to change our lifestyle so we don't end up with medical bills that are incredibly expensive, and we don't end up with chronic diseases that a healthcare system doesn't know how to get us off of. And if you're in that healthcare system, I mean, full respect, because I've talked to so many of you who have shared with me how you're trying to change the lifestyle of your patients, and I applaud you. But here's the current reality. So we have, like I said, 60% of Americans have one chronic disease, 40% have two or more. 800 million people worldwide are obese. I'm going to talk about that one because a lot of you know that I've got a new book that will be coming out in October. It's called Eat Like a Girl. It's all about the eating window. It's a cookbook. And one of the things I'm trying to teach is, how do you eat now that we know how to fast? That's a whole nother story. But 800 million people are obese worldwide. 41% of women over 21 are obese. 45% of women have high blood pressure. By the way, genetics is only one part of all of this. There is a lot that the way that you, just so we're all clear, the way you trigger a gene is through lifestyle. So if you don't want the genetic profile that you've been given, then even more of a reason to work on your lifestyle. 45% of women have high blood pressure. 1 out of 5 women developed Alzheimer's. We have 1 out of 8 women have a thyroid problem. 50%, by the way, of women going through menopause will have a thyroid problem. And we have 1 out of 9 women with type 2 diabetes. And we statistically, cancer is going to affect half of us. Half of us are going to get a cancer diagnosis in our lifetime. So when we look at these statistics, we have to come back to a lifestyle tool. And why I said I love, love, love fasting is because it's free, it's effective, and it's time efficient. So we all can do it. When you put yourself in this healing state, your body repairs itself. And one of the things that I love more than anything is when you get an incredible fasting result, what happens is there's only one person that gets the credit. Please don't give me the credit. I just brought you the information. The one person that gets the credit is you. Those of you that are going to go on this incredible journey with me to educate women about a fasting lifestyle, you needed to know this. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it fired you up. I never want to bring you information that we can't solve. And what I want you to understand is all of us coming together to solve this problem, to change the way that women look at their bodies in healthcare, to even in the smallest conversations, changing the way that women, the suffering that women are having, giving people, those of you who've shared the books with your friends, thank you, because really what you did is give them hope. If we all come together on this, this is how we will change healthcare. I cannot do it on my own, and now I need you. And now we need to come together, and now we got to do it so together as a cohesive community, so we can change the lives of 50% of the planet. So
we got to talk about exercise, because I know, especially for weight loss, because I know so many of you, once you start fasting, you're like, exercise, schmexercise. Like, I found a tool to lose weight. I don't need to exercise. You need to exercise. So there's so many reasons why I want you to exercise. But on this video, I really want to talk about weight loss and exercise, because I want to make sure those of you that are really working hard to really drop some weight, I want to make sure you're doing it in a smart way, not in the old-fashioned way where we used to be like more restriction and more discipline. You don't have to do that anymore. You actually can lean into science and look at what science has taught us when it comes to weight loss and exercise. And if you pair what I'm about to say with a fasting lifestyle, you've got yourself some gold, some weight loss gold. So here we go. Ready? So what the science says, and I'm going to give you sort of two avenues to look at this, and then in the end, I'm going to kind of bring them together and how it would look in a week. But what the science says is that the best way to lose weight is through high intensity training. So I will leave the link here for those of you that are the science hounds, so you can dive into that, to the most current research that I'm looking at. But I've seen this in our Reset Academy. We do a workout every Saturday morning, and I mix up HIIT training with the next workout I'm going to tell you about. But whenever we do, every couple of months, we do something called a fat burner reset, where we just come together as a worldwide community and we practice different principles of fasting and exercise and food to be able to lose weight. And during those weeks, I always do HIIT training. And I lead the exercises most of the time, which is really fun. So come join us. We'll put a link for the Academy in here. But what I want to emphasize to you is that when you are HIIT training, you are bringing your heart rate and your respiration rate up, and then you're giving it a rest. And then you're bringing it back up, and then you're giving it a rest. And what that does is it signals to your body to start to release a hormone called growth hormone. And growth hormone burns fat. And once growth hormone is on the scene, it starts to melt fat away. So if you are getting stuck with weight loss, more of this up and down with your respiration rate and your heart rate. So it could look like a lot of different things. The original study that was done, we have a lot more up-to-date study, was done from a Japanese scientist whose last name was Tabata. And some of you may know the Tabata training. But in Tabata training, what he did is he did 30 seconds on like all-out exercise, as hard as you can go, and 90 seconds off, where you're just resting. And he saw that when people did that style of exercise, that they didn't just burn calories in the moment, but they fired up their metabolism because they released growth hormone, and that metabolism stayed fired up for at least 24 hours afterwards. That was the original study. Now there's some new science that's saying that actually the best way to do HIIT training is to go all in for 3 minutes, like as much as you can get that extreme workout for 3 minutes, that is even accentuating fat burning even more. And I would say we're seeing this in my academy. I'm experiencing this in my own workouts, that if I can push myself for 3 minutes cardiovascularly, getting myself to about 80% of VO2 max, which means I'm bent over like sucking in air, that I can start to see the shift in the menopausal belly weight. I can feel the shift just in, I call it paddedness, that happens sometimes as you go through menopause, of just that extra padding you feel on your body. So it's in this hormonal reaction of HIIT training that the magic actually works. So you get to choose your amount. You might decide it's 45 seconds on, 30 seconds off of an exercise. You might try the 3 minutes. The way we do it in my academy is we actually do it where it's like 30 seconds of a jumping jack, and then 30 seconds of a high knee sprint, and then 30 seconds of a burpee, and we have all different levels in there doing it together. And it's when you mix it up in 30-minute chunks, the 3 minutes goes by very quickly. So HIIT training, it is your go-to when you hit that point where you're like, nothing's making sense in the weight loss world. I can't move the needle on weight loss. I want you to start to ask yourself, am I HIIT training? Am I doing enough HIIT training? So that would be a huge part of exercise. Second part of exercise, and I feel like this is very topical right now. Everybody's talking about more weights, more strength training. And I'm not saying, just because I'm over here saying HIIT training for weight loss doesn't mean I'm not saying more weights. In fact, I'm a 54-year-old woman. I am leaning into weights like you cannot believe. I'm like, how do I get more weight training? And the reason that weight training works is that you have a whole set of insulin receptor sites that get birthed as you build muscle. And the more insulin receptor sites you have, the more, think of them as little gates that you have for glucose to go into your body to be used for energy. So when we start to see that there's a bigger muscle mass in a person, whether it's a man or a woman, we start to see that they are more insulin sensitive. So there are two different ways of coming at weight loss. They both work really well, but the first and the quickest, like if it's Wednesday and you got a hot date on Friday and you're like, not feeling it in my body, I'd like to drop off some pounds, do some HIIT training. That's going to be your quickest way. But if you're a 45-year-old menopausal woman and you're like, oh, menopause has just killed me, I have so much extra weight, I really want to make sure that you don't just go all in on HIIT training and that you are doing some heavy weights. Because the more muscle you have, the more insulin receptors you will have, which over time will make you more insulin sensitive. They are both really important. Now, I can tell you, I'm going to share, like, full transparency, the mistakes I made during my 40s that I am now trying to recover from. So when I first found fasting, well, back up one step, I was a competitive tennis player in college. I've been an athlete my whole life. I love working out. And when I found fasting in my 40s, I was like, I had so much energy, so much mental clarity. It kept my weight where I wanted it to be, that I started doing a lot of HIIT training because it was time efficient. You don't have to do a long HIIT training workout. And when I moved into my postmenopausal time, which has been in the last couple of years, I started to feel like my muscle was really breaking down. So I went back to weight training. And going back to weight training is not a lot of fun when you've been off of weight training for like a decade. So I really am now a strong advocate for women over 40. Let's start picking up the weights. Let's pick them up and let's get strong. It's really important. But it's not the only thing you should do. You also need to be thinking about HIIT training because it has that growth hormone. And the thing about growth hormone is that once growth hormone is stimulated, so it also brings along all the other hormones with it. It starts to raise all the sex hormones. So both are needed. And for me, in a weekly workout now, I'm doing 3 to 4 days of heavy weightlifting. I'm doing 2 to 3 days of HIIT training or sprints. I like to sprint and just like so that I'm so out of breath. And then I'm doing 1 day of yoga or like walking or repair. And I kind of use those three. It's like yoga, walking, hiking, HIIT training, and muscle building, strength training. I'm sort of moving through a week looking at, am I doing all of those? But if I find myself only muscle building, I remind myself more HIIT training. And when I find myself more HIIT training, I'm like, hey, we got to remember muscle building, and I've got to make sure that I lean into the other things. So that would be the one thing that I feel like at 54, if I could go back and give you some advice, those of you that are in your 40s listening to this, please don't forget the importance of building muscle, because I mean, and all the postmenopausal women here put in the comments, like the muscle breaks down fast. So stay ahead of it. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on exercise and weight loss. Again, there's no absolute. I really want to point this out. In the new book I'm writing, I'm talking a lot about the N of one. N of one, you be your own example, take all this information, apply it, and find what works for you based off of your body type, your health situation, your lifestyle. So don't fall into the world of absolutes. In here on YouTube, in the social media, we love to be like, you have to do this. I like to take all that information, think about it, how does it work in the female body, and then I like to apply it and decide how it works for me. And that's what we all should be doing with this information. So put in the comments, what are your thoughts on HIIT training? How's it worked for you? And maybe even if you have a fun exercise routine, share it, because we are a community here on YouTube. But as always, do not give up on yourself. You're a miracle. If you don't feel like one, hang with me. I promise I'm working as hard as I can to teach you how your body works so that you know these strategies and that you start to believe in yourself again, because you're ridiculously powerful. As always, I hope that helped. Okay, you trying to maximize your weight loss? Apple cider vinegar may be the key. Go check out this video where I show you exactly when, how, and why you want to use it for weight loss. Apple cider vinegar changes your microbiome of your gut. This good bacteria is going to help to bring your blood sugar down and make it so that you can switch over into the fat burning state